An assessment by the National Disaster Management Organization has established that 1,000 people have been affected by the recent floods in the Ashanti region this week. At least 1,000 households have been identified to have suffered some form of damage during the floods. It's been days, but victims are still putting up in mosques and other makeshift structures and say they have lost unspecified amounts of money, personal belongings, among others. Let's take you live now to Kumasi and speak to Ohiming Teria, who's being on the tour with NADMO officials. Ohiming, what's the extent of damage?
Thank you, Aisha. The situation in these areas are very dire for especially the victims and other residents who may want to enter these communities. Majority of the victims have been displaced and now have been forced to put up in mosque as they continue to, attempt to clean the flood waters and is accompanying mud from their rooms. It's been difficult moments for some of them. Some of the land owners are yet to come to terms with what has befallen them, taking into consideration the investments that they have put into their houses, to the extent that some of them have also lost unspecified amount of money on top of losing their personal belongings. One of them is Ajia Sadia Alasan, who broke down in my interaction with her to understand how she and the other residents around have been affected.
Ohiming Teria will get that sound bite and play for you, and so you can have a feel of exactly what Ohiming has been talking about. But Ohiming, definitely, NADMO, what has NADMO officials been saying about this whole thing?
They have already assessed over 100 houses. In each household, we are told not less than 10 people live in each household. So far, they have estimated about 1,000 people being affected in Tuesday's flood. What it means is that NADMO will have to complete the assessment at the district and the victims. So for now, NADMO officials have been very, very busy in their Sokorema municipality, for instance. And the director of operations for NADMO, identifies, believes that if you look at the extent of damage caused by the flood waters, it will take several days for the victims to recover. For now, he's not promising any form of support, but he says until they are done with the assessment, they will be able to come to the aid of the victims. So he's also proposing that the assembly, that is a local assembly, should make efforts to sort of dredge the Susan stream so that it can accommodate more water than the water, entering people's homes. We can take a listen to Alhaji Faiza as well.
To get those sounds for you, what can you say of the victims themselves? How are they coping?
It's been very, very difficult for the victims. Majority of them, as I said earlier, are putting up in mosque. So for now, they are unable to inhabit their rooms, and they've been forced to put up in a mosque. And then in the daytime, they come back to their homes in an attempt to salvage some of the personal belongings that have been lost to the floods. And it's been very, very difficult for them. They've made a passionate appeal to government to come to their aid. Some say, yes, this is an area that they have lived since 1992. And if you look at the topography of the area, they've never experienced a magnitude of the floods they experienced on Tuesday. And so they believe that something can be done. And if something can be done, then it could be in the form of dredging the Susan stream which overflowed its banks, pushing the water into people's homes. And this could only be done by the local assembly on behalf of government. So they've made passionate appeal to government to extend support to them. And majority of the people I spoke to complained of a loss of personal belongings and unspecified amount of money, in some instances, foreign currencies. So losing your personal belongings and at the same time also losing money that could have come in handy to prepare you for the days ahead is what actually, makes some of them break down. Even in my conversation with them, they are yet to come to terms with the loss that have befallen them.
We've had issues of NADMO mostly not reaching out to all the victims. Sometimes they reach out to some of them, and then at the end of the day, some of them will say they didn't get anything from NADMO. So how is NADMO responding to this appeal from the victims?
Yes, like I said earlier, NADMO officials themselves were in the community. We've met them in the community as they move from house to house, collating information and assessing the situation in that regard. So for NADMO, they wouldn't want to promise anything now because in the first place, they are not done with the assessment. Even if you take the Asakwara municipality, for instance, they say over 100 houses have been affected. And with 100 houses, they've managed, over 100 houses, they've managed to cover only 80. So it will take some days for NADMO to even complete the assessment. And in the Kumasi metropolitan area, for instance, NADMO officials have also been working, just that we didn't meet them on the field. Earlier on, the regional NADMO coordinator, hinted that they are waiting for all the districts and the municipal NADMO offices to collate information on the flooding. Once they submit this report to his outfit, then he will be able to forward it to the national NADMO office before any assistance could reach these victims. So it is early days yet for NADMO to even be talking about what to be done to save the situation. They say unless they are done with the assessment, they can't help the people. And the people themselves are already devastated because they've lost their personal belongings. They don't have a place to put their head on. And now they are also being forced to move from their, abode to a mosque where they are currently occupying. So it's a bit difficult situation for the victims in last.
Oyeminseri is our man in Kumasi monitoring this flood victims and the damage that the flood has caused to these people. We're still in Kumasi because traders at the KJTR markets in Kumasi have agreed to start payments of accrued electricity over there.